listening to Heroes in the Moment. What's up, heroes? I'm Michael.
And I'm Nathan.
And today we're reviewing Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom.
We're back, baby.
We're back. After the holidays, the craziness, the busyness, what was it? Christmas?
Yeah, Christmas and New Year's.
New Year's. Christmas, everything in
New
between.
Year's is a weird thing to celebrate, I feel like. It's an overrated holiday in my opinion.
Overrated?
Yeah.
I think it's definitely overrated. But I think it's still kind of cool because you get the whole idea of New Year, New Me, and the whole.
It is cool, like the whole turning, of a new year. But it's like as far as traditions go, places to go,
I hate
food
New Year's
to
food.
eat.
I
It's
hate
like,
New Year's food. It's soups and black-eyed peas. Soups and black-eyed peas.
Are you kidding?
It is. That's
I've
New Year's
never
foods.
heard of that,
and I hate it.
Yeah,
I'm not a
it
huge
sucks
fan of
because
it.
the only tradition I know of is like watching the ball drop.
Yeah,
it's like everyone just in front of a TV.
Yeah,
typically.
We as a family always do like soups, and then like sometimes like my dad will have black-eyed peas.
Black-eyed peas. I've never heard of that.
Yeah, it's apparently it's good luck for the new. I don't know.
Really?
I hate it, but it is what it is.
You do not partake in the.
No, I do not partake
the holy
in
tradition.
I do not of the black-eyed peas. So not for me.
Yeah,
the
I didn't really
sure,
celebrate either.
No.
But yeah, good Christmas. But we didn't desert you guys. We're back here. Finally.
We're not. We're not ones to be like, we're dipped. We're done.
Just dip without saying anything.
We're back.
We're back
because we love you.
Yeah,
and we're here, and we're reviewing Aquaman: The Lost Kingdom, a movie we've been disgracing all year.
Yeah.
So
we have been talking a lot of poopy poop about it.
We have been. I mean, obviously, ever since we heard people walked out of the theater.
Yeah.
Everything else in between, the making of it.
Yeah.
So let's get into the review of it. Obviously, we'll go same as we've always have. Intro, right into characters, pros, cons, and then we'll rate it on a scale of 1 through 10. So let's get into it. Nathan, you want to start us out?
Yeah, let me start out. I know we talked about this briefly beforehand.
Yeah, a little bit.
Honestly, man, this movie kind of felt like a waste of time, and not just due to the fact that it's the last movie, the DCU.
Right.
Obviously, we know that this movie isn't gonna matter at all.
No,
but I just wasn't entertained at any point throughout the film. I did fall asleep for probably a good 10 to 15 minutes, but I went by myself, so hopefully nobody saw me. I was the only person on my row. I wasn't disappointed because I had extremely low hopes going in. And
right.
I thought it was just kind of
Yeah.
And honestly, it makes me want to it's never something I'd really want to see again, to be honest.
Yeah, I totally get what you're saying and I get your point of view. Like, you were watching it, you know it doesn't matter, so you're like, it's harder to watch it because of that reasons. And I went through the same thing, and I will say, like, parts of like the first and second act, I was getting tired too, and I was like,
yeah, that second act drags a little bit.
It does, and a lot of those places, and I completely agree. But again, because my expectations were so low and they were bottom tier expectations, I was pleasantly surprised by many things.
It can't get worse than the bottom.
Right, exactly. So when you're at the bottom already, it's harder to.
Yeah. Whereas with Morbius, we had maybe a little bit of hope, but like 15% Rotten Tomatoes. Maybe they're wrong.
Maybe they're wrong. Yeah. No. So I had zero hope going in. So that I think helped a lot and made me appreciate a lot more things than I might not would have beforehand. Going into this movie, I mean, there was some elements that I did enjoy, and we'll talk about that as we get into it. But I was not like absolutely like, oh, this movie's horrible. And to me, like, it's definitely nowhere near the bottom of DCEU movies.
Yeah,
anyway.
I mean, dude, they got a lot of company.
They got a lot of bad stuff.
Mainly the Suicide Squad.
Yeah, I know. There's only like 3 or 4 really good DCEU movies. I think like The Suicide Squad. Yeah. Justice League Snyder Cut.
I would say, honestly, Man of Steel. I really enjoy that film.
Man of Steel's okay.
It divides people.
And then Aquaman, I would say the first one's it's up there. Yeah, Wonder Woman, the first Wonder Woman's definitely up there. But other than that, I mean, and Shazam, I would say the first Shazam's really good.
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
But the rest, I mean, they're just kind of lower down there as well. So it's it's not really that much to go by. But we'll get into it as much as we can. So character-wise, we got to go into it. Obviously, with Aquaman, played by Jason Momoa, Ashton Curry. What do you think?
Honestly, I think I preferred his performance in the first movie better.
I did. I agree.
I felt like he was a little more cheesier. I know that obviously they went with a more comedic route. Especially with his brother, kind of like a buddy cop. You good, man? But I wasn't feeling it. Obviously, he's older, he's more mature, but it didn't feel like he was more mature.
No,
at least to me,
it didn't. Especially after having a kid and this, that, and the other. It felt almost like, I would say, how Thor was in like Ragnarok compared to Love and Thunder. Not as bad in my opinion. But like in Aquaman 1, it was very much he was Ragnarok. He was serious when he needed to be, but at the same time he still had some comedic elements. But then in this movie, it seemed he was very much, he was wild and out there.
I know.
It didn't feel right. Now, that doesn't necessarily, like, I love Jason Momoa. I think I love him as Aquaman. I think he's a great, I mean, obviously he doesn't necessarily look like Aquaman in the comics, but I think he is a good Aquaman.
Yeah.
And I liked him in this movie. And I did laugh at several things that he did, but I see where you're coming from. It definitely was not as good as the first performance.
Did James Wan also direct the first one?
He did.
That's funny to me. He's doing both of these movies. It kind of should be like one concrete flow. Whereas Thor's character change is primarily due to the fact that Waititi took over.
Right. I think the reason that James Wan in Lost Kingdom is, I feel like he kind of was already attached to it, and then because of the fact of everything going on with DC, he lost care, and so a lot of the effort he put into wasn't as much as it could have been.
Yeah, so he just did it for the LOLs.
Exactly.
He's like, wouldn't this be
one of those
funny?
Things. And at least like the jokes in this wasn't like Love and Thunder bad. In my opinion,
no,
like,
it wasn't.
It wasn't.
I don't think there's anything.
I don't think they're. I mean,
as bad as that.
Like the Bluetooth speaker, oh my gosh, I just keep thinking that Bluetooth speaker, man. Why do they think that was a good decision? I do not know.
How did this get approved?
I don't know. But anyway, Aquaman, okay. Not my favorite, not the best, but okay.
Yeah.
All right, so now let's talk about Ocean Master, or Patrick Wilson, right? Yeah. I think he was the best part of this movie.
I do too.
I think he definitely
killed it.
He was great.
He's always been he's so underrated.
He is.
I mean, his biggest role is in The Conjuring, I think, and I haven't seen him in too many movies or projects outside of that.
Yeah,
but he nailed his part.
He's great in this movie, and I think I liked him better in this movie than the first movie.
Yeah, I did too.
Because obviously he's the villain in the first movie, so it's kind of harder to do that. And he was just super annoying in the first movie. But this movie, his relationship with Arthur and the buddy cop elements, I actually enjoyed more than I thought I would. I thought I would definitely that would be a huge con for me going in, but actually it was one of my more pros leaning than when I walked out.
Yeah.
So that was really interesting, and the elements of him in it, what he did, and how he helped out, and how he was just really loved his kingdom, even though it's not his anymore.
Yeah.
I appreciated that.
Yeah, and it was really interesting to, kind of hear out his perspective. I mean, obviously we did in the first one, but it's kind of hammered home a little bit more in this one.
Right.
And I think his redemption arc was honestly probably the best part about this movie.
It was. He had a good character arc.
Like, that's what you were rooting for really throughout the movie.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah, and he had a good character arc, because there was a few times, I didn't know if I could trust him or not, and that was executed really well. Like that one scene when he was saving that one dude or whatever. I thought he left.
Yeah, I thought he was going to leave him to die.
I thought he completely left him, was going to leave him to die, and then he was going to betray Aquaman there and take the Black Triton. That's what I was thinking was going to happen, but they didn't do that, and they really did redeem him as a character, and I really appreciated that. I think that was really well done. And I think honestly that was the best part of the movie there. Was his role, and I think it was really, really cool as well. All right, so let's get over to Black Manta. I think I like Black Manta.
Yeah.
I think he's a good villain.
His performance was good, but I feel like the writers, it feel like they were on like cocaine or something.
The problem was the Black Triton plot.
Yeah.
If you take that terrible. Away and you just focus on him wanting revenge,
Black Man,
and killing Aquaman and taking, doing whatever you need to do with that, I think it would have been better.
Me too, because it adds a weird kind of like supernatural kind of thread to it, which I don't know about you, but at least to me, I was extremely uninterested in that backstory.
Completely,
I was like, Black Manta should be the villain. Why is he being controlled by these?
Exactly,
and that backstory was the exact same from evil brother, good brother rebels, gets locked away for
Lord
thousands
of the Rings.
of years.
I mean, it's literally very similar to Lord of the Rings.
I was like, what is this?
I thought it was so stupid. I did not like that. But Black Manta in and of itself, I love.
Yeah,
I love Black Manta. They should have kept the focus on him. Forgot the Black Triton completely. I mean, he was great in the first movie. I think he was great in this movie.
Yeah,
I think he's a great villain. It's just a matter of putting him in the right place. And doing right with him, which they didn't do as much.
Yeah, the writers did him dirty.
They did.
They really did.
They did, because he was so good, great casted, great villain, just misplaced in a lot of different aspects when it comes to Black Manta.
And I would have cut that completely.
Oh yeah, I would have completely cut the Black Triton plot completely out, and I would have focused more on Black Manta wanting to, kill Aquaman essentially, and make war with Atlantis with compared to humans, and that would have been more of a primary focus for me. I think I would
a little more realistic for the
exactly. I think that would have been a lot better of an approach. All right, our next character. We have to talk about
out of obligation
to the movie and what it had in it.
Yes,
but I don't want to talk about it, so we're going to keep it brief if that's okay with you.
No, that's fine.
Amber Heard.
She had way too much screen
Way
time.
too much. That was what I was thinking.
Dude,
the
I
entire
thought
movie.
she was gonna have like a couple scenes.
Way too much. Mara.
She had a huge role.
When that one scene, literally, I'll be honest about my theater experience. The one scene, whenever Black Manta like fired his lasers at her and you saw like the burns or whatever,
Yeah.
I cheered like in the theater. I clapped.
You stood up and saluted,
I
Michael.
did, I went woo. Maybe not that loud, but I was like, yes.
Yeah.
I was like, kill her.
Yeah, for sure.
The whole time, that was what I was thinking.
Yeah.
And then
Go
they
poop
didn't.
in somebody else's bed.
Exactly. But exactly, I was like, kill her, good. She's dead. She's done. And then she came back, and I was like, what are you doing?
I know. And then like she's consistently throughout the film,
Right.
Even in the very end, I'm like, dude,
Like, what are you doing? And
Why?
I know, like, if you look at it from a systematic standpoint, and you're thinking to yourself, if it's not Amber Heard, it wasn't a bad role in the movie.
Yeah.
I'll say that wasn't bad.
Like she did a good job.
She did a good
She
job.
really did.
And you can't say that. I mean,
Yeah.
she's a talent. She's a good actress,
Yeah.
but she's just not a good person. So it's
Yeah,
really hard to like really
clearly.
deviate that. And obviously, she should not have been in this movie at all, and should have been scrapped.
Yeah.
Her name should not have been on the casting list. I
Yeah.
think that even though she was in the movie, they should have took her name out.
I know. From what I understand, it just seems that they had already shot everything. So I mean, like she already had a crucial role, which does
Right.
suck. But she had a crucial role kind of in this movie. So I guess like I don't know. It's too expensive to go back and cut it all
and
out.
I wonder what the movie would have been
It
if
probably
they
would have been
left.
like she died maybe in the beginning. So it's like single dad.
Yeah.
Aquaman raising the kid.
See, that would have been better. But
Yeah.
also, I think like what would it have been like if they left the scenes that she did do and the majority of them in what would the movie been like? But I honestly, they should have cut her or killed her off really quickly. She was in it way too much, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But we'll leave it at that with her.
I agree.
I think that's all we need to talk about with her. All right, next up, the best part of the movie, Jimmy Woo. I was shocked when I saw him. I was
Yeah.
like, Jimmy Woo.
Yeah.
He's everywhere.
Jimmy Woo.
Like, was it Randall Park, right?
Yeah, Randall.
Love that
I don't know,
guy.
he's in everything now.
He's in
feels
everything.
like.
I mean, he's Dr.
Same
Stephen
character,
Shin.
too.
He is the same character in every movie. That is true. But you can't help but love the guy.
Yeah, he's a
right?
lovable guy.
Dr. Stephen Shin, he plays
like
in this
his
movie.
face.
He's just great.
Yeah, he's
I mean,
great.
Jimmy Woo, man. But like Dr. Stephen Shin, he played in this movie. At first, like I said, when I saw him, I thought he was just gonna be in that one scene, but I was like, he's too big to be in that one scene at the beginning and just die. But I was glad that they kept him in it more. And I mean, him being in it, I mean, just touching it and gracing us with his presence just automatically makes this like a 9 out of 10 movie. No, I'm just kidding. But I did like his role in the movie. I
Yeah.
thought it was really good. I think maybe a little bit too much screen time.
I do agree.
I think, but I liked seeing him, so I wasn't complaining too much.
Yeah.
But I think he might have had a little bit too much to do.
I do. I agree with you there. Obviously, he was there kind of as like the light in the darkness. You know, he's trying to speak truth to the villain. However, not to discredit what you said, but I think his role could have been cut out of the movie and then given that bit of humanity to Black Manta. So you side more with the villain. And I think that would have added a lot more to the plot. But instead, he's like completely overtaken. And Jimmy Woo on the front line with the enemy is trying to take over. So I do think they could have played into Black Manta's character too.
I think they could have used it a little bit differently. I like him. I love Randall Park, and I liked his role. But I feel like it could have, like, I agree with you. Could have been played into more of the humanity side of things as well.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I just was really happy to see Jimmy, because I didn't even know he was in the movie at all.
I didn't either.
At all, until like I was in the movie and I was like, is that Jimmy Woo?
At first, I thought it was a Marvel movie when I saw him. I was so confused. I was like, dude, this one is Aquaman.
It's Marvel.
MCU, bro.
Oh, that hurts. But no, I was like, Jimmy Woo. As soon as I saw him, I was like, wow. At first, I didn't believe it was him. I was like, that's him. I love him.
That's him.
It was great. All right, now we got to talk about Atlanta. Nicole Kidman, or otherwise, I should say, where was she?
Yeah. She should have gotten more screen time than Amber
Oh,
Heard.
definitely. She had, what, 2 scenes?
I know. It was
Literally 2
extremely
scenes.
small.
She gave Aquaman like the octopus, and then she was there at the end.
I think she showed up when the house burned down, right?
Yeah, she showed up, but she didn't like have any lines.
Yeah.
So I wonder if like Nicole Kidman was just like,
I wonder. She has another AMC ad to film.
The best part of going to the movies.
Yeah.
Best part of going to
Facts.
the
We
movies.
stand up and we salute.
Absolutely.
When that thing comes
we salute
on.
it. We repeat it. It's just like,
We go to
national
sleep
anthem.
singing that.
We do. Absolutely.
Take off our hats
But yeah,
when it comes on.
she had literally nothing to do in this movie. I thought that they were going to kill her off multiple times, but they didn't.
Yeah, me too. And they should have done that.
I think they should have, and I'll talk about the next.
Somebody
character.
should have died.
Somebody should have died.
Yeah,
that's
we'll
for
talk
sure.
about him.
We'll talk about that in just a second. But yeah, she was like barely in this movie, and I was
Yeah.
super surprised. I was like, I thought her role was gonna be like Amber Heard's role.
Yeah.
But instead, she still had a good.
And
amount
they
of screen
totally
time.
could have done that. Like his. Wait, that's Aquaman's mom, right?
Yeah.
His mom taking care of the baby because he's a
Exactly.
single dad. It's like,
Exactly.
man,
Like, they
that
could
would
have
work perfectly.
easily. And then like all of her scenes, I feel like could have easily been replaced with Nicole Kidman.
Yeah,
But
I agree.
I mean, Nicole Kidman might have been just like, I don't want to be attached to this much either.
Yeah.
Which I can't blame her.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things.
Yeah.
All right, now we got to talk about Tom Curry, Arthur's dad, Tamora Morrison.
Yeah.
I like him.
Yeah,
I like
I
him as a
do too,
character. I
yeah.
think he's great.
He's a good
but he
character.
should have died.
He should have died.
He should have died.
It just felt like once they established that he lived, it's like, dude, there's no stakes for this movie.
No.
You know?
And that's the thing is I'm tired of Hollywood being afraid of killing off their characters. I'm
Yeah.
tired of it.
Especially when it's the end.
I know, exactly.
It's the end.
What do you have to lose?
Yeah.
And it's
Like they could kill off Aquaman, and it honestly wouldn't have made that much difference because
No.
he's gonna get rebooted
Exactly.
in a couple years.
Exactly. I mean, they should have killed off the character. Like I said, I mean, so much Hollywood movies, MCU, DC alike, are just being so afraid to kill off characters, and I think it's ridiculous because like there's so many. I mean, that brings stakes into the movie. And yes, like I'll be sad when that character is gone, but that's a good thing because I'm caring about your stuff.
Yeah.
If you just kill off a random character and then you keep all of your characters, there's no stakes anymore. We don't fall in love with the characters anymore.
And it keeps you more in tune with the rest of the movie because
Right.
you worry more about your favorite characters.
Exactly.
Oh crap, this person died. What about? I mean, when you're watching Game of
Right.
Thrones, like your
Yeah.
favorent character will
I
just
haven't-
randomly die.
Right. I
It
haven't
makes you care
felt
more.
fear of death since Avengers Endgame. Right?
That's true.
After that movie, I mean, because that movie, I was fearing the whole time for all the
Yeah.
other characters.
You're
And then,
like,
of course, my
someone's
heart
gonna
was
die.
ripped out
Yeah.
completely. But it was executed perfectly.
Yeah.
And it finished a great character arc, one of the best, well, the best of the MCU,
Yeah.
in my opinion. But like, there's just so much, like, even Guardians 3, as good of a movie as that is, should have had some character killed off. And it's just so much movies that just need to lean into that idea better.
No, listen, man. I completely agree. And like I said, it just kind of took me out of the movie.
Yeah.
It's like there's no reason why he should have survived an
None.
attack from
None.
Black Man.
No,
So,
not at
like,
all. Not at all.
He's not Jango Fett.
No, he's
okay,
not.
maybe if you Jango Fett, it
I
would
know,
work. But
no.
yeah.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. All right, let's get into our pros. Nathan will start us off.
All right, well, listen, man. I'll start us off because I have one.
One pro.
I have one pro,
Okay.
yeah, and we already briefly touched upon it, but it's Patrick Wilson's performance.
Yeah. Yeah.
I absolutely love him. I thought he stole the show, like we said. His redemption arc, I thought at least, was the best part about the movie. I find myself rooting more for him than for Aquaman, which I don't think should be the case.
Right.
His kind of buddy cop thing with Aquaman, I feel like went over pretty well. I feel bad, he didn't have a ton to work with, and I bet he improved a lot of his lines,
Yep.
given that I didn't like a lot of the dialogue.
Yep.
But I think the biggest, the shiniest star of this movie was Patrick Wilson.
I agree. That's also a pro of mine is Orm just himself. I mean, it was definitely a star. And I really like the relationship between Arthur and Orm in this movie. I think it was a huge pro for me. I think it was one of the better parts. Even the buddy cop aspects I enjoyed, and I think it went over well in this movie. All right, so to continue with the pros, because obviously you have no more, so I'll just go for it.
I have one.
It's a fun movie. That's just a pro in general. It's fun. I thought I had fun with it. It was one of those, at least I didn't have to like worry or sit and do anything like that. I just looked at it more from the aspect of just like one of those movies, for example, like a comedy movie you just sit and watch for fun.
Yeah.
That kind of movie is what I kind of associate with instead of a steak action movie, a steak action movie. So I kind of like that and I appreciate that. And then Black Manta, I thought he was great.
Yeah.
It's just the whole Triton plot.
I know.
That's not. And we'll talk about
it's
that.
just like a dark stain on his performance, really.
Exactly.
It's kind of hard
It
to
is.
differentiate that.
It is. And the idea of the plot in that aspect was good.
Yeah.
But then you come in and ruin it with that aspect, and it's just, it drowns it out a lot a bit. But that's what I have for my pros as well.
All right. That's all your pros?
That's all my pros.
All right. Let me start off with the con then. And let me start off with the con that kind of goes with what you were saying. I feel like, Michael, that this movie ultimately at its core didn't know what kind of movie it wanted to be.
That's a perfect description.
And I've heard a bunch of other people say it too, so I can't take full credit. But the film doesn't know what genre it is, so a lot of the time it's focused on that like that buddy cop comedy, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And then with other aspects, it leans more into action, and then it's also super dramatic in places. So to me, in my opinion, it just doesn't flow well because it's throwing all these different like genres of movies at you. I think if the film like clearly established like in the trailer, hey, we're gonna go straight comedy, I think it'd be received a lot better because everyone
Could
would
be.
go into it,
Right.
all right, it's purely comedy.
Right.
Instead, I feel like this film doesn't know what it truly is, so it's trying all these different elements, and
That's true.
as a viewer, you're just confused as to what's happening.
I agree.
So,
that's a
my
good
first
con.
con.
That's a great point. I completely agree. My first con is Amber Heard. All right, now to move on.
That's good.
All right, now move on to my
Amber
next.
Heard.
But yeah, that was my first. The next con is I feel like the pacing of this movie was not very good. I feel like a lot of elements of it just felt off. Like the second act just felt like unnecessary and just not done right necessarily. I mean, the whole Arthur and Orem plot was cool, but like that, other than that, the pacing wasn't that great. And then I'll
Yeah.
go into the next one, just the Triton and the Seven Kingdoms plot, and we've already touched on that, but I'll just
Yeah,
highlight it again.
I had that one too.
Yeah,
That did suck.
it was not good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Another con I had was I thought the dialogue was kind of weak. To be honest, I feel like we were kind of overfed with information. Like instead of letting stuff played out, they had so many conversations, like, word for word, about what was happening. I'm like, dude, I've watched all the DCEU. I'm pretty sure I know what's happening. I
Yeah.
don't know. I just feel like this movie was kind of catered to the younger audience.
I could see that, like a family more oriented film.
Yeah.
which I didn't necessarily hate, but it is what it is. For me, another con I have is, and we already talked about this, is, and you mentioned this best, is some scenes just fell out of place because of those kind of cross genre kind of things.
Yeah.
Cross genre is not bad in some aspects, but in this movie, it didn't know what it was, and I think
Yeah.
that was the best representative of that. And then finally, just again, the fear of killing off characters.
Yeah.
Movies need to quit. I mean,
know.
just bring it back.
Like that, this movie had no reason to not kill off literally any character. Like
No
they don't
reason.
have contracts
Nope.
going forward.
No.
Like why are you still holding back?
Why would you do that? I mean, you're eliminating stakes.
Yeah,
and
but then you gotta
that's-
think about, like, if this movie truly was made for like kids, for family movies, it would make sense if they don't want to kill somebody. I mean, I know it was. I mean, they still had blood. They had deaths, so it doesn't make.
And it's a DC Warner
yeah,
Brothers
and it's
too.
a DC, so why wouldn't they?
And plus, it's PG-13. I mean,
Yeah.
if
And
you're
it's
gonna
not
make it a kids
PG,
movie,
yeah.
make it PG.
yeah,
So then that would be a completely different conversation. But
yeah. So let's see some deaths.
they kind of failed.
I'm gonna combine these next two into one. I'm gonna go with bad CGI, and then the sets looked really cheap. I don't know about you. I thought the live natural sets looked perfectly great. I thought the movie had some rush CGI. It didn't look
Yeah.
all that real to me. And then especially the sets, dude. They didn't have a ton of sets, but they did a lot of shots within these sets, and I thought they looked like really, really, really cheap. So that really took me out a lot. I also thought the movie was kind of unnecessarily dramatic with some of the characters.
Sure.
I'm like, I thought this was more like a comedy, but now you're switching over. Then I have two more. The first one is, I feel like the humor sucked. So I'm just gonna go on and say, I know not this is a personal thing, but I just didn't find it funny. I think I laughed once. I'm not a huge fan of. I mean, when you think buddy cop, you think of stuff like, I don't know, Will Ferrell, Kevin Hart,
Right.
Ice Cube, that kind of stuff. I didn't find that same level of humor.
I agree.
And I think most of that was due to the writing. But Jason Momoa and Patrick Wilson aren't naturally accustomed to that style.
No.
So I didn't think it really fit them either. But my last one is, I just felt like there's too many political themes, honestly, about global warming and then harming the oceans, which are legitimate things, but they were brought up so many times throughout this movie. I'm like, dude, I clearly see that there's a point trying to be pushed here. And when I go see a superhero movie, I'm not
Yeah.
want to hear that.
It could have been executed better. I completely agree.
So those are
Completely
my last couple of cons there.
Sounds good. All right, now it's rated out of 10.
Oh,
All right, I'll start us off with this one.
Go ahead.
I think it's solid 5 out of 10.
Yeah.
I think that's fair. I mean, I was thinking 6, and I was like, well, I mean, I would say 6, but at the same time, I feel like just 5 is a good representative of this movie. I mean, sure, I had fun. I mean, my expectations were 2 out of 10 going in, coming out with a 5. I mean, that's a rise.
Yeah, +3, baby.
I mean, that's as an additional 3. So, I mean, a lot of those elements, and Orm's character is definitely that 1 point for sure.
Yeah, it's a whole point. Then Amber Heard takes down
Amber Heard does take down at least 2. I do feel like that does have a go into it, but I think a 5 out of 10.
Yeah, listen, Michael, I agree with you here. I'm also going to 5. It's not the worst movie I've ever seen. It's not the worst superhero of the year. It might not even be bottom 3 worst superhero movie of the year. But then again, it's not a good movie, I would say. It certainly could have been a lot better. So I think 5 is perfectly fine.
Yep, I completely agree.
All right, guys, if you enjoyed this episode, let us know by giving us a review and a download. Our podcast, Heroes in the Moment, is available on all major podcast platforms. So go ahead and check that out.
And we just want to thank y'all for listening. And as always, we love you 3000.